So welcome to the Application webinar today. I'm Antti Pietila, your host today. During the next 1.5 hours, we will cover how to measure to improve digital employee experience. And on the topic, I have Harri here. Harri Turtiainen, CEO and co-founder of Application, will go through all the essential details of how to actually measure to improve employee experience.
Exactly. And how to do it easily.
How to do it easily, yes. So, we are talking about end user devices. We are talking about software and computers, basically. And as everybody knows, having good working tools is essential for individual employees to perform well, and also for how fun working really is. If your tools are not working, then the day is probably not very. Don't go too well.
That's true. Hopefully they worked well today.
Yeah, this webinar is hosted from Finland, and we don't usually have temperatures like today. We are now running at plus 30 degrees outside, and inside it's not much colder, rather otherwise. So not the sauna temperature, but getting there. So please excuse us if we need to swipe some sweat every now and then.
Yeah.
But maybe you could introduce yourself and tell a little bit about how Application came to be.
Sure. Thanks, Antti, for the introduction, and glad to be here. Hello, everybody next to your screens. On my behalf too, I hope you all are doing well. A few words about Application and myself and my background. Application is a digital employee experience improvement company. We have developed a cloud-based monitoring and measuring tool that collects inventory, performance and usage data to get continuously up-to-date visibility to your computers and applications, to understand how well they are functioning and serving employees at their daily job, and to see what works and what doesn't, and thus what needs to be improved. I've been in IT business since 1995 at a computer manufacturing factory. I started in business controlling tasks, moved to sales and service development positions at a Finnish managed service provider, worked there for 8 years. I was business and country manager in IT distribution business for 7-8 years, and in 2013 the story of Application started, and the story continues. When looking my work background, most of my career has been related more or less to IT solutions and services related to end user IT, and how you can improve IT experience with computers and applications so that the employees can be successful at their work. I've been talking about the end user centric IT and how and why you should improve the IT experience with hundreds and hundreds of people who are working in IT departments and people working at IT service providers when providing end user services for their customers. When we established Application, I've been breathing the subject 24/7, 365, and this accumulated learnings I'm willing to share with all of you in this webinar, not trying to tell the truth, as there is no one single truth existing, but to share my views built on these learnings.
Thank you, Harri. During the webinar, we'll first start through the theory to get the framework up and running for everybody. Then we dig into the practice. Sorry. And finally, how to get started. So, without further ado, let's dig into the topic.
Yeah, okay. So within next about an hour, I will cover the following topics, which play important part of digital employee experience improvement philosophy at Publisher. First, we talk about the purpose, why purpose is important, and why the digital employee experience improvement is important. Next topic is data. What role it plays when reaching the purpose, and what to pay attention in data when improving the digital employee experience. Then I talk few words about the KPIs and metrics, their role in managing the operation and reaching the results. Final two topics cover improvements, what to pay attention to get concrete results, and how to make data actionable, and accountability, in other words, showing the results inside IT but also outside of IT. So let's start about the purpose, which is definitely one of my favorite topics, and I think not that much talked in IT. Definitely we should talk more about the purpose. You know, if you want to make things to happen, if you want to reach results, and if you want to succeed in what you do, you should have your purpose defined to lead your direction. You know, why do we do what we do? What drives you in your daily operation? And what is the bigger picture and meaning for you at work that you want to reach? Purpose can be defined in personal level, in team level, operational and in organizational level. It doesn't have to be always something official. It you know, it can be something that you discuss with your IT team, and together you define that's what we really want to be. It's something different than just setting up you know, the business targets normally which you do, but it's more of something that you know, is worth of reaching, and it really drives you, and I believe it gives you the passion to do what you do, what you want to aim for, and where you want to get to, and in best it really drives you at work. And if the why is meaningful enough for you, for your team, for your organization, I believe that sparks the internal motivation of the people, and things start to happen. And this sparked motivation, I think, can lead to amazing achievements.
You have probably read or watched Simon Sinek's who talk about the why, and why you should always start with the why.
Yeah, I saw that video in I think it's TED video when you Google and search why and Simon Sinek. So I think that is where you can find it.
Yeah, now Simon Sinek puts in that way that you like in the business you usually start with the what, and then we go to the how, and finally to why. And Simon Sinek said that you really have to turn it around and always start with the why, the purpose of doing things, because that drives all the rest.
That's why I think people are not talking enough about purpose, and which equals to why, and then start with the why. And we've been doing quite a bit, and then after I saw that video, so it really made me kind of think that how we approach. And as you said, and that's what Simon Sinek says. So normally the approach is you know, the conventional. Was it what, how, why, and he gives a very good kind of the story why you should start with the why.
And always for example, the purpose is something that usually organizations doesn't talk at all. So you could be working there for 5 years without knowing why I'm coming to the workplace every morning.
And that's definitely true. I've been talking, as I said, about the subject, this topic 7-8 years.
Yeah.
And as I said, I've been talking to hundreds of IT professionals, and to be honest, time to time I've seen that people, who have been thinking that they have 20-25 years at least time before they get to pension, right? And still they come to seem to missing something, and I think that's exactly what you said, that the teams and organizations are not talking enough about the why. But it could be also in personal level, because then I think also that you can find your kind of the own purpose.
Yeah.
And then what you want to reach, and that's why it should be, as I said, it could be in personal but team level. But definitely there should be a more discussion about the why.
For example, for many IT organizations, it seems like why the IT organization exists is totally forgotten. It seems like we exist to actually make our own life easier, how to manage computers more easily, rather than why the function itself exists.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's your purpose?
Right. Well, thanks for asking. Our purpose has been quite clear since I established Applixer in 2013 together with my colleague, our CTO, Kalle Saunamäki. And our purpose was to provide well-functioning computers and applications for the employees. The idea had evolved and matured based on our experiences in the past at our work career. We could see all the time where the employees and computers and softwares were too often seen in kind of the necessary evil, if you could say so. Just the cost and hassle to something to minimize. And due to that, IT used very little, or we could see very little, or if at all, data to understand how these tools work for the employees, and we could recognize that there is a clear lack of visibility to computers and applications. And that made us to establish Applixer. So it is just more of normal support what was seen, support and maintenance, and what needs to be done there as they are, because they are just computers. That's all what you need to do. And our thinking was clear. Computers and software, we believe, are the most important working tools today for information workers. Not IT assets, as IT often seems them, device to manage and maintain, or assets to be managed in costs as a cost in accounting, as a finance department often sees them. And I could take an example from totally different area. Formula 1 driver cannot win the races if the cars are not in perfect condition, and you need loads of telemetry to develop a top performing car, and you need lots of telemetry during the races to ensure that everything works during the races right. And of course you need a professional team to do all this. And I believe the same goes with the computers and applications. So employees can't succeed at their work if the tools are not in top condition. And you need telemetry from these tools to really make it happen. So we wanted to develop something that provides relevant data from computers and software and measure how well these tools are functioning and gives the clear visibility to IT teams. So really to understand what works, what doesn't work, what needs to be fixed, so that IT can start tuning the tools into this top conditioning. And you know, the target is to help employees to succeed and enjoy in their work, as you said earlier. And the key question for us, of course, when we establish the company and from the business perspective is, are there anybody else who believes the same thinking, who shares kind of this purpose with us? And I think we have proven that there are and continuously increasing amounts of people and organization. Today we have over 700 customers, environments monitoring and measuring and improving their digital tool environments, both IT departments and IT service providers, helping their customers to get better IT experience. And Gartner is forecasting that this market is growing strongly. And Gartner analysts have stated that the global corona pandemic actually is increasing the demand from organizations for endpoint monitoring tools due to strong increase in remote work, you know, which increases the need for visibility even more. And I did also actively CIO interviews end of last year. I think there were something 15 about them. We discussed about the topic with the same agenda that we are discussing today. So we talked about purpose, data, KPIs, metrics, you know, improvements and accountability. And when we discussed about the purpose in end-user IT context, you know, they said, and this is, I think, very strongly stated, that a prerequisite for our existence is to be able to provide well-functioning tools for employees. They said also, we want our employees to have world-class tools in use, or our main task is to ensure that the employees get their job done with well-functioning tools. So I think all this definitely confirms that there are many who shares our purpose, and the number is continuously increasing.
Thanks, Harry. If we move to the next topic, world is becoming more and more data-driven. How does this data affect, and what kind of data needs to be collected if you want to improve digital employee experience?
Well, the data makes reaching the purpose of these well-functioning tools for employees very concrete, because data makes it possible for you to understand, you know, what works and what doesn't work. Data makes it possible to keep things, you know, that work continuously in good condition. So it doesn't always mean that something needs to be broken. So it is also important to see what we have done and what we are doing well, and in other words, what works. And naturally, you don't want to keep those. You want to keep those things in good condition in the future also. The data shows things, of course, what doesn't work, which you can then start fixing. And with data, you can follow up how things are concretely improving when you have fixed something. And the question is that how you can do this if you don't actively monitor, measure and use data as core part of your IT operations.
Yeah, continuously collecting up-to-date data is of course important to get the right visibility, to see what works and what doesn't work. But where do you start? What data needs to be collected? Because the problem in IT is not usually that you don't have data. You have tons of data, but it's mostly unusable.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, there's loads of data available if you want to start collecting it and if you want to start using it. There are some key things I think you need to define to make it work. So, of course, you need to define what data you need that takes you towards the purpose that we talked earlier. Of course, that is very important. Then questions like how to build metrics from data. We talk about more a bit later about the metrics. How you get the data, of course, and what you need, and how you turn the collected raw data into understandable form, because that's one of the big problems that even though you get a lot of data, so that is in so raw level that it's very difficult to understand what it really tells you.
You get data, but you don't get the information.
Exactly,
so
exactly. And then, do you believe more of a one-time effort here and there for a specific purpose, like inventory data for something, data for asset management, data for following security updates, and I think this is what the data use has been mostly till today in IT and in end-user IT especially.
Mostly project-based.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of.
Or the other way around, do you think measuring and monitoring should be a continuous operation? And for sure, in software world is that the things are not the same today as they were a week ago or 2 weeks ago. So the things are continually changing. So you have to decide, how you want to run operation. Then you need to define how do you show and report the data. It's very important, the part of really getting the data actionable. Then how do you handle the changes in data compared to history data, and how do you show the development trends, because it's not just having the snapshots from here and there, but also having understanding how things are developing to see how we are performing in what we do. It is also important how do you continuously develop your whole data operation. For sure it is that it's not kind of a static one-time operation, but you have to continuously develop the things, how you are working with the data. And better you want to be, further you need to develop the operation so it really becomes the data-driven. And I think this is very important, the continuous learning, which is the key, but also enables drive for development if you are motivated and eager to develop yourself and the operation that you are part of. So if you have the purpose defined of well-functioning computers and applications as what is for Applixer, the question is that what data then we should monitor, and first you need to start thinking and planning what data is relevant for that purpose, because as you said there's so much data available. Or another option is of course that you start with a solution where this and the whole kind of the list of all data related things that I just went through is thought on your behalf and made easy for you.
So can you show examples of how to concrete data that could be collected to start the health of your endpoints?
Sure. I think let's look via Applixer product screenshots, some examples. What's health data we monitor and report to keep foundations in good condition. I think which creates the base for well-functioning computer and software environments. The examples that I'm gonna show you are based mostly on our customer interviews that we did a few months ago, where we ask from our customers that what are the most common data that they monitor on regular basis via the Applicator. So let's have a look. Let's see. Okay, so first here you can see the main dashboard of Applicator, just to give the look and feel about how we do solve the things in Applicator. We have an agent that collects the data and transfer to our cloud platform, and then we refine the data and show in a very visual and understandable form. Let me see. Let's take the next screenshot. So of course it's important to have a good visibility, kind of the basic inventory data. So what all computers you have in use, and then of course what different alerts and issues you can recognize from the devices. We have a look at them a bit more closely in a minute. So understanding and the coloring in this screen means that what is the utilization of these devices.
Yeah, the important thing is to see the forest out of the trees, so to speak. So
exactly.
You get the quick idea of where do we stand today without digging into the data.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, it's important that you get easily the overview of the things, but then you can start drilling down. Sorry about that. Drilling down more in the details. So you can start seeing the list views of the devices. What do you have in your environment? Some additional basic data. And then you can start seeing kind of the foundation health data. This is example of from our user interface, how we saw what all different operating, and especially in this case Windows Shift 10 versions there are. The reason I picked this up as part of the demo, so-called demo, is that this is something what customers brought up during our interviews. So and I think that the reason for it is that when we start talking with the customers, so as an example, when we talk about kind of these foundations type of things, that do you have a control of your operating system versions? So we have seen that customers have kind of the feeling that they are doing okay. But then, as they have gotten interested, so they have done the trial, and they could see that, oh, things were as how we thought it was. So, as an example, they could, most of the cases, they can find that there is more operating system version sprawl, which kind of indicates few things. It many times tells something that your deployment processes don't work, of course, and so that's something that you should start looking at what we should fix over there, so that we can get really a control of these operating system versions. And also, you know, more sprawl you have, more difficult it is to maintain, more difficult it is to support your environment. And most probably what we've seen, it indicates also the reflection is that you start to have also more and more software version sprawl, as if the operating system sprawl is
but of course the operating system is the foundation of your environment. If you have sprawl there, it's a ton of much more difficult to manage when you get some reports about some problems somewhere. They probably affect a certain build version, and if you have many different builds in your fleet, you are actually fighting in multiple fronts.
Yeah.
You don't learn quickly enough, and you have to spend too much time on managing
you know what the
more resources.
when we have to talk when we are talking to customers about the topics. So many of them are, and that's why you know one of the reasons when they at the moment when we've been asking them, they've been using Applixer for
Yeah.
a time. So and they are selling that hey, you gotta really start putting the foundations you know in place in good condition. That's a start until you should start reaching the next level. And then I can tell that there is quite a bit of the work what you can do or what you should do, but start with the foundations, and that's why I picked up this example. But also then you can start drilling down details about the device once again, so you can see, and then these are you know what customers also told, some security readiness data that they are following actively, understanding the device health also by using the device core. What is the operating system installed, and these sort of the things that customers are telling that they are following on a regular basis. Then the software world is kind of very interesting, because they are really the tools that the employees are using when they're using the digital tools. And I think there is quite a bit of the work to do there. So first you probably start with the operating system, but customers brought up in these interviews that they are now actively also monitoring and looking the data from their software environment. So really understanding what all software you really have in use. That's in many cases kind of the surprise is that there are much more software installed and used in these computers that customers think. But it's really important that you get an overview and quickly and understand what all software products you have in use, and this coloring tells also that how you are utilizing.
Yeah, the utilization is important. You see, you can get the data what software is installed, but you don't know whether it's in use or not without the used data. And removing stuff that is not used makes your environment much more manageable.
Yeah, but I think even the bigger, the challenge. Well, that is a big challenge. One of the big challenges there is, and what customers are now actively, as they answered in these interviews, that they are very. It was one of the most top topics that they are now actively monitoring is how many different software versions there are.
Yeah.
Of course, you should have only software products that the people are using. So, as you said, getting rid of the applications which there is no need for, but also really managing the software versions, which is very challenging task because there are so many different software. But definitely you should start looking for how many different versions there are, and then basically every time when customers get visibility on this side, they get a bit surprised that they see that they have problems there. And then you can drill down once again in the details, because you want to see how things look in software product level. So here we have Microsoft Teams from our demo environment. This is quite typical situation. Very commonly used collaboration tool, very important role in today's organization. And this is quite typical situation that they have many different versions and they haven't been aware. So of course the target is that one of our customers told me that they have gotten rid of now, they've been using Applixer for a few years already, and they have gotten rid of about 1,000 different applications or application versions, and they still feel that they have quite a lot of work to do to get things in better condition. But that is a great start already. And
it doesn't decrease the value of the. It doesn't decrease the digital employee experience. You are not necessarily standardizing. You are getting remove of of all the old versions and stuff like that is not used, to make it much more manageable, improving the quality. So that's one thing that the IT usually understands wrongly, that you should limit the selection. It doesn't need that you need to limit the selection, you need to limit the unused or different builds and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I think also it's part of being kind of the fine-tuning or tuning this in the top condition is that you have the latest versions. As an example, you know, in Teams, they very actively develop the products. So how do you make sure that the people have the latest versions and they have the same versions in use? Because, you know, if they have different versions, so how do you can kind of educate people using all the features and functionalities?
And you have ton of compatibility issues when you have a different versions. Mics don't work and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, but if we move forward, so I think we could see now some concrete examples how Applixer provides the data to start getting the foundations in good condition. And as I mentioned earlier, it is important to think also what is relevant when improving the relevant data, when improving the end user IT experience. And for the relevance, data relevance things to consider are what impact the data has on user experience and how many it is impacting. Also, how you can fix the problems if the data reveals them. Are they easy, moderate, complex to fix? So these things you should think through also when thinking of how we should use data in our operations. And I'll take a couple of examples here. Example one, we can find that some employees have a laptop battery in bad shape. That can be very annoying and disturbing issue, especially if you are a mobile worker, but also if your work includes a lot being in the meetings, or if you are using actively, as an example, conferencing tools, as nowadays people are using them a lot, they've been very battery consuming applications. So the walnut battery has definitely an impact for the user, but the problem is very easy to fix. You know, just get a new battery for these people and you help them a lot, and definitely I think it is a good investment.
And it's also good an example where the user doesn't necessarily notice that because the battery is getting a little bit worse week after week, and you don't seem to know that you are always searching for an outlet.
I believe that they definitely notice it. It's becoming more and more annoying, but I think more of the kind of problem is that you know, they don't contact service desk. Yeah. You know, hey, I have a bad laptop battery, but they are suffering, and we have examples of this. You know, when the IT departments has been, you know, when they have now gotten data and found these people who are suffering about this problem, so they've been contacting them and, hey, we have seen that you have a bad laptop battery, how about if you pick up a new one from the service desk? And there's kind of been the reactions that, wow, what's happening? You know, the IT is really helping us. So that's definitely important. Okay, let's take example 2. Computers are having continuous performance issues and users are experiencing significant slowness of the computer. We actually interviewed some end users, not people in IT department, but end users about a month ago as a part of one development project that we are working on at the moment. And this was top 3 topics that they brought up as the most annoying issue with the computers at the daily work. The slow PCs and having issues with that. So it is very annoying for the user, as our interviews revealed, but does not completely prevent him or her from doing the job. And the user probably does not contact again service desk, but waits until the problem goes away, or at that time, and then continues to work, or they may restart the computer because somebody has given an advice that, hey, when I restart the PC, so then it starts functioning better. And that might help them to get rid of the problem at that point until it occurs the next time. So this sort of the problem, when happening to multiply computers systematically, probably requires a bit more analysis. What might be the cause that the systematic problem of that systematic problem, and how you find a solution to fix that. Easy fix could be testing, just adding memory. We know this has been a good and working solution in many good working solution in many customer cases for our customers. There was one law firm, as an example, who could find, okay, they are this issue with quite a lots of laptop users, and then they started to analyze, and they could find that they had a commonly used software which consumes lots of memory. Instead of doing more of troubleshooting, so they just tested adding. They had 8 GB devices which suffered this problem, so they added 8 GB memory, and they got rid of the problem. So actually quite easy to fix the problem, and then this is what they tested first, and they got it solved. And then they decided also that, okay, when we buy new laptops, we buy them with 16 GB memory instead of 8 GB memory.
But this is also something that if the user doesn't, it's not the user's responsibility to understand what's wrong with their computer. It usually happens at the time when they are busy doing their work, and they don't log into that, okay, log somewhere that, okay, write down that, okay, I have this and that software open at that moment. It's just annoying, and that's why it's usually very difficult for the IT to solve the problem, even if they contact support, because they don't provide enough data.
Exactly. Let's take example 3. There are areas in IT that are much more difficult and complex to fix. With this, it makes really sense to think through where to put focus on, so that you get required impact compared to how much you need to spend time and effort to monitor, analyze, and fix things. Often we talk about areas or services that are more critical in nature, like end-to-end, as an example, end-to-end availability monitoring is usually, at the end, it is quite complex, and getting enough value with improvements, in other words, impact, is much more complex to reach. Or network monitoring, you can sure monitor and do some fixes when problems occur, but the challenge is that the networking, that are what has been told me. I'm not expert in this area, but networking happens in many different layers, which means that getting complete enough monitoring results may be difficult at the end of the day. As an example, to certain layers, only operator, they have the access. And developing the things and fixing the things might be quite complex. And especially now due to corona pandemic times, employees are working extensively remotely and not using the company networks most of the time, but wireless at home or mobile connections, and then these are then already out of IT's control in many ways.
and will continue to work remotely, as we have started to see now that the restrictions and curfews are getting removed, so people are wanting to work remotely, and so this is a kind of a new normal.
Yeah, definitely it will be kind of the new normal. In what extent we will see, but definitely strong increase in remote working compared to before times in the pandemic.
And again, it's not the employees' work, or few employees can even troubleshoot why their network connection is not working perfectly. You're having problems with Teams. Why? Yeah. It might be in different layers, but it's still an experience issue.
Yeah, it is important to get understanding of the connectivity issues. But as I said, when it comes to home wireless networks or mobile networks, so the interesting question is that what you can do for those. You know, if you have 5,000 employees working remotely, so you can't put people, walking around different, homes and checking that what's wrong with the wireless at home, or if you have a chosen mobile carrier, so what do you do? You change the carrier, and hey, we have some issues, and then, as we know quite well in Finland, so yeah, depending on the area or place, so there is not that much difference at the end of the day.
But of course, the IT can call and say to the user, okay, it seems like you are having problems at that end of it. Maybe you should change your Wi-Fi router or something like that. Yeah. So that helps to, even though it's not something that IT can do something about, they can tell what can be done.
Exactly.
The problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So that makes a lot of sense. It's easy to see that finding the high impact, easy to fix issues is the way forward. But how do we put this into the, let's say, a bit more practical way?
There are many concrete data points that you can monitor in computers and software, especially improve the functional quality, which has clear impact on employees' productivity, and which also are fairly easy to fix. So let's look again a couple of concrete examples via application screenshots of so-called low-hanging fruits to pick up and to get the quick wins. So let's pick up here. So this is screenshots what Applixer provides about the issues, what we have monitored and recognized in computers. This is from our demo environment. I also picked up notes of what the customers once again told that they are monitoring on regular basis. So high memory usage, which we talked about, or performance degradation, which means this slowness of PCs. So they are actively looking at data from that. If you have a disk full, so very easy problem to fix quickly and proactively. Laptop battery, we talked about that topics. They are looking at device startup times. If they have a slow startup times, so very annoying can be for the users. So that sort of the data from devices you should collect to understand, and then it's once again important to get an overall picture what all the issues there are in our endpoint environment, but then you can drill down in more details to device level, so you can see exactly what's happening in that specific device. The battery, how the capacity is developing, and then you can see even in a daily level that what issues that specific computer or device is suffering from at the specific day. So that's really gives to understand that the where the problems can be. When it comes to software, so yeah, I'm looking at the list that customers were saying, well, they are looking software functional issues. We measure it in 3 different levels. So if the software is not responding, or if it's hanging, or if it crashes, so you can see easily what's and which devices are suffering about these problems. And once again, then you can drill down in the software product level. So here I think it's Microsoft Office, so you can see on daily level that what all the issues this specific software product is causing on daily level. So you have a visibility on that stuff also. I mentioned about the device startup times, which customers are monitoring actively, so you can easily find show me the devices where the startup time is over 1 minute, and then you can also see the trends, which is important also, not only having the snapshot data but also understanding the trends, how the things are developing. So
especially when you're making changes to your environment, you kind of see that, okay, we made something last week and it seems like things are getting better or worse.
Yeah.
But
and I also picked up one screenshot about this security readiness data. We believe it also plays an important role making the tools functioning well, because when you are if you don't have the readiness security things in place, even in the basic level, it might be that what customers say is that they are looking that BitLockers are in use, they don't have admin rights for the people who shouldn't have them. Definitely big thing. If firewall is used, antivirus is in use, and when something happens in security side, you get attacked or something, so it definitely have a big impact on the productivity. I heard the story about a factory in the Central Europe. I don't exactly remember, was it Austria or something, which was down for 6 months because they got attacked, so they couldn't run any operations. Yeah. So, well, that is an extreme example, but definitely it means that have an understanding of the security readiness of your devices also.
And from the employee's point of view, you need to trust your computer. If you kind of are feeling that maybe it's not secure enough, you avoid of using it for certain purposes, or you're afraid of doing certain things.
Yeah, of course, but at the end of the day,
especially out of your office network.
Yeah, but on the other, I think the normal computer users, so they don't much understand about those. They should be just,
Yeah, they should be able to trust, and the trust is something that you don't want to lose.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Right.
Okay, thanks, Harry. So first we talk about the purpose, and then we covered what data should be collected and how it should be used. And we did see some correct examples how to become more data-driven. So the next question is, what gets measured gets done, so to speak. So what are the KPIs for running the operation? What you should have it on your dashboard, so to speak. What figures to measure?
Yeah. Well, the basic idea, first of all, for metrics is to summarize the current results of measured data points. That's my strong opinion. In other words, they help you quickly to understand where we are at that moment. They also help you to manage the operations the right direction if the data points are selected well. And to manage operation, of course, you need to set up targets for short term and for longer term, which is different than what the purpose is. So you need to kind of hard targets also for your operations. There is a saying that if the quality is described with adjectives, so in most of the cases it means that you are lacking of metrics. So if somebody is saying that our computer and software environment is in good condition, so the question is that what does it mean compared to what, and how do you define the good level? And I've seen this quite a bit during this 8 years that everything is great and works great, and when you start asking a bit more questions, so it appears that this data has not been used that much, and they don't have the metrics,
and the situation is not even good.
Yeah, exactly. So I just describe a simple model defining and calculating the metrics. It could be just listing the data points that you want to include to that specific metric. Well, as an example, list 5 to 10 concrete data points that shows in how good condition a single computer is. Then define how much weight each of the data point gets and represents from total 100. Then define the metric scale, as an example from 1 to 5, as how we do it up in Applexer, where 1 is poor and 5 is excellent. And then for each data point, define how it gets points from 1 to 5 when measuring. And I think here you have a device score. And then just start measuring, give points to each data point measurement results and calculate your scores. And the total environment score you get by, as an example, calculating average from those device scores. We can also, let's have a look again how Applexer is using KPIs and metrics, because they are important part of our product, and they have been there since we launched the product to the markets in 2014. So I showed you this simple example how you can calculate all metrics from each of the device, but when you start to have tens or hundreds or even thousands of the devices, and if you would like to do it as continuous operations, as I think you should, so the manual way becomes difficult, or I would say impossible, if you are trying to do it manually. And with the metrics, it's also important to see the development trends, not just having the snapshots from here and there, but really having the understanding how things are developing to see how well we are performing in our job. So let's have a look example, and an interesting thing also as we interviewed our customers. So they are using and looking these scores actively. In Applexer, if we look at the main dashboard, so we give scores for each of the categories, devices, software, performance. Those were actually actively that customer are monitoring at their daily operations. You get a total score of your environment. If every customer environment is measured in the same way as what we do, how we do it in Applexer, so then you get benchmark numbers, which is definitely very interesting. And the development trends, so basically, so you can see that how things are developing from month, quarter, half year, or 1 year level. So that definitely gives an understanding that the work we are doing, so is it taking us the better direction or worse direction, and where to pay attention to. But you know, that was the overall environment level, and then as I think mentioned earlier already, so then for each of the device, which was my kind of the example, so we calculate also a device score for each individual device, which takes into account all the issues that we have recognized that are happening in that specific device. So environment, category level, and then in device level. That's how you can do it. And I talked about the development trends, and I think this is important part of understanding how we are doing. So we have done it even each of the issue level that you can see from 1 month, quarter, half year, 1 year level, that how the when you decide that okay, let's start fixing this and this and this, and so you can have a follow up that are they going the better direction or worse direction, or if you are using an MSP as your partner, so you can actively have a dialogue with them that okay, let's focus on these things, and then you can, as a customer, you can see that the other things going the right direction. Yep.
So these are kind of the reasons why the experience is taking the hit. So you have a ton of, let's say, underlying things like clock drift and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Harry. Let's next deep dive into the topic of how to improve things when we have defined purpose, data to quality, and metrics.
Right. Here the key question is how to harness data and then metrics for concrete results in short and longer term. From the improvement point of view, this is really what matters, I think, the most. It is important to understand where we are already doing good and continue to keep these things in good condition in the future also, or if possible even raise the bar, I think, which should be the case in the longer term. Then when you start fixing things that does not work, my learning has been based on my own doing, but also what I've seen happening or not happening at the markets. Keep things simple enough. Don't try to reach the big targets or purpose at once with and with a hurry, because most probably you will not reach it. There's kind of the saying that do as little as what is needed, not as much as possible. The first part of the sentence does not mean being lazy, but really breaking the big target into small enough pieces and focus getting one piece done at once before moving to next one, and so on. I don't know if you've seen and read this Kaizen book, Atomic Habits, which describes about what you really can achieve with small improvements, and that's what many of our customers are saying, that when they started to do things, so yes, in small pieces, and after a couple of the years when they look backwards, so they have seen that there's been a big improvement in what they've been doing.
Yeah, the Atomic Habits, for example, tells that it's a huge book lately, and the core idea is basically that setting goals in itself does not necessarily mean that you are even progressing towards that goal, but concentrating on the habits that gets you there. It's much more important than thinking about the goal or setting the goal. Of course, you need to set the goal first to understand what habits you need to put, but focus only on the habits. And if you make just the tiny improvements every day, doing more things, more of those things that you should be doing and doing less of the things that you shouldn't be doing, you are making huge gains compared to your competition in a sense.
And that goes back to examples that I,
Yeah.
how you can kind of find and recognize these high impact but easy to fix things, because they get you forward continuously. When you start doing something, bigger fixes in networking or something,
Yeah.
so they are so much more bigger projects. So and when you do a lot of these, so the impact is definitely good for the employees, and when you do it continuously,
Yeah.
so you get more satisfied users and better functioning tools for users. So
High impact, easy to fix things means that you start from the, let's say, where you get most bang for your buck list, and go forward, and that's quite similar to the, for example, to the agile software development, where you always start from the most important, the most value adding feature and work downwards.
Exactly.
And this way you always get the best best effort, the easiest improvements first, and little by little, of course, the improvements are not happening that well. You get much more marginal improvements, but always starts with the high impact cases first.
And probably agile, continuous improvement, that has been used quite a bit as a term.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much the same, or exactly the same thing. And then that said, it leads to great results in longer term, and it also, when you do it in a small pieces, so it leaves you the flexibility to necessary adjustments along the way, as you are learning all the time, and then you can do adjustments based on those learnings. It's like, when you start at a company and become a startup, so you might have a big goal somewhere there that you are reaching, but the road to the target is not that clear. So you go 2 steps forward, 1 step left, then 2 steps backwards, and but continuously you kind of and then because that is based that you are learning continuously, and that takes you the right direction at the end of the day. I have learned also that it's important to have courage to start acting, which is yet half ready. Putting things in action is the best way really to get feedback, what works and what doesn't work, and what needs to be improved next. And when you have done the improvements, you see if it brings better results, and then move to next improvement, and so on and so on. So I think this is definitely the best way for concrete results, and works pretty much in everything. What I've learned, and what we discussed already a few times, that it's important to focus on getting the foundations in good condition first, because this gives you good understanding what you should be focused next. And I've learned also that describe and document things at least in basic level. Nothing too detailed or complicated, but something that describes things well enough. Why we do something, how we do things, and what we do, because then this helps you to return back to foundations. If things start to get confusing, as time to time it happens, and it helps also you to stay on the right track, and it helps you to bring new people on board. Good advice that I've learned also from customers, is to agree as a team how to operate with data and metrics, and that everybody remembers that why we are doing this and what we are doing. Then defining the baseline based on concrete data, I think forms a strong base for daily operation. Baseline means things that we make sure are in good condition at all time. This can be one of the topics in the team meetings. Do we have a baseline in condition? And when baseline is based on concrete data points, you really can define your baseline metrics also. And when you do this follow-up on regular basis, on weekly or monthly level, so you get your trend line, how things are developing, maybe in each data point level and at the metric level. So baseline creates a foundation, and you should review the baseline on regular basis, maybe bring some new data points and metrics, maybe drawing something out. As you learn along the way, you get your baseline and foundation better and better also. Then, in addition to baseline, you can start bringing, as an example, top 5 development targets outside of the baseline data points, because there are certainly lots of those. So you can agree with the team what of those we will put on the do list, and then agree who does what is the target timeline for selected improvements, how to follow the improvements, and then have follow-ups for this in Teams meetings. And when these are fixed, bring new list of to-dos on the table. So I think the basic model as itself, operation model, is quite simple, and we have many customers and partners actually who are doing this at daily level, and they have really reached results. And as I meant, keep things simple enough, don't overcomplicate them. As next step phase, then you can start bringing automation capabilities as part of your operation to increase efficiency and improve quality of what you do. This you can do, as an example, by bringing monitored and measured data to your ITSM system, where you can start creating automated tickets and of selected issues, or start even auto fixes in some of the cases when applicable. But that is kind of a phase 2. But start from the foundations and basics first, and then move to the next level. Yeah, that's beauty of the thing, actually.
Set the habits, so to speak. Set the habits, the winning habits, like focusing on the, let's say, daily level. Is there one thing that I can fix, and order them by impact and easiness to fix? And if you start doing things day by day, you are getting that 31 times better than today in a year's time.
Yeah, it is getting
quite hot
here. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Harry. Now we have gone through the, let's say, most of the things, but there's one thing that especially the rest of the organization and the leadership wants to see, and that's accountability.
Yeah.
Are you doing it because we just need to be doing it, or are you really accountable for what you are doing?
Yeah. I think there needs to be more and more communication between IT and business leaders. Technologies are so core part of the business operation today that this close communication, starts to become a necessity, I think. As I interviewed this bunch of CIOs end of last year, I asked how much IT is communicating, and especially showing outside of IT, how they are, measuring digital employee experience, or what they have been doing, fixing and improving, how things have been developing. what is the current situation and what are the next development targets, and the answer was not that much, or if at all, was the answer, especially what comes to computers and software, which are the productivity tools for the employees. They felt that it was not much of interest for the business people, and that's probably true, but I think especially if you talk things about in IT way. But many of them, however, believe that more communication would increase the understanding that IT is not just doing IT stuff, but IT is really interested in improving, providing best-in-class working tools for employees so that they can succeed in their work, and showing things in understandable visual way and not confusing them with IT terminology most definitely would help bring closer relationship, I think, between IT and between the business. And if you would need to ask then money from business to invest further, improving the IT experience, having something concrete to show would definitely help getting positive decisions, I believe. Maybe even change the track for continuous demand for cutting the costs, which is very strongly exists in today's IT world. So maybe you could get money and invest even more. So especially if you can show and justify the need for investment, based on concrete data, and that's important.
For example, if the money is the only thing that's measured, then it's the only one that matters in the decision making in the leadership level. But if you can show that how the employee experience is developing, then you are thinking, okay, actually the cost of the IT is just a very small fraction of the cost of the employees.
Yeah.
And you start to see that, okay, it makes sense to invest more, because you kind of start to understand what you will get out of it, and how that will affect the overall performance of the company.
And that's why IT, they have to be active part of it and start communicating and showing and learning how to discuss with the IT, but definitely showing the things to business, because things don't need to be technical or very, if you look at Applixer, so I could easily, you could show the business people, and I'm showing the dashboard, so that, and I know the customers are using actually it quite actively, in management team meetings, and just giving a glance and showing them that, hey, we are really doing something, and we are really interested about this, and that's plays a big role already. That business people understand, hey, that's great. Now they are really working on it.
And the funny thing is that being transparent in itself improves the experience, because people, the leadership and the employees, starts to understand, okay, someone is really taking care of this thing, and it's being measured, and maybe I'm having problems today, but in the overall picture, seems to be doing quite fine, so this is manageable. This
exactly.
kind of just normal that we are having, and actually as we are performing better than the benchmark figures, means that the other companies are having even more problems than we do, so we are actually doing quite fine.
And
so it puts some perspective on
what you
this.
said earlier. So I think if we kind of continue thinking a bit further, so employee, I've just in some of the discussions I've been using the example that average cost for an employee, let's use 5,000 euros a month. That is salary
including side costs.
And so it is quite a big investment from organization or from a company to an employee. You know, if you have you can on a yearly level that makes quickly 60,000, right? Or about, and then you know, if you think of the normal PC kind of the lifetime is said to be in lease agreements at least 3 years, so that's 180,000 euros. And then when you start kind of the comparison, that's the in 3 year time frame. That's the investment to an employee. So and then you start thinking of you know, the computer cost. You know, I think good level tools laptop you get 1,500 euros, right? And so if you compare that cost, and even though if you add the maintenance cost
and software, still a few hundred euros per
it's
month.
Still kind of very small piece of. And as we talked for an information worker, this is very important tool at today's work. So it really makes sense to invest just a bit to make sure that we make this tool function, because it's kind of securing the investment to the employees. You know, I've been using sometimes the example that the importance of these devices that you know, if I leave home, I'm on the way to the office, and on the midway I find out, oh, I forgot, because it has happened a few times, I forgot my laptop back to home. So what I do I go to the office and hey, I have my mobile phone, I can do all the things and stuff what I need to do. No way, not at least for me. So I take a U-turn and then go and pick up the laptop. So that also plays kind of describes in a simple way that how important role these devices.
You really cannot get your
exactly. So make sure that they really work and function, and many times when you do it in easy and simple way, so it's not even a big investment, and definitely, you know, brings value for the and I think that's what I need to be able to show more and more is the value that they can provide for the business. So I think we are moving from operational efficiency to providing value for the business, and it's important to keep in mind that it is employees that form the business, and as we talked, so they are the greatest assets, and these digital tools, computers and software are the most important productive tools for workers, as we discussed just a couple of minutes ago. So you really should take care of those properly. And as I said, a simple way to show the business, you know, just could be using the dashboard of Applixer, which you can see on the screen again. And as I mentioned, though, many customers are using this already, you know, when communicating to peers as a management team meetings, and they are just using it.
Taking a screenshot to a PowerPoint and
where the biggest issues are, and this are with what we are focusing, and this is how things are developing, and then, you know, if they need more data, so they can easily, even with using in a team meeting or management team meeting, and drill down in the details if they need to show something more.
Because on a, let's say, on a management board meeting, you don't have much time.
No, exactly.
And end user IT is only part of the IT. So there's a ton of other things. So it's easy. Okay, we are now running at 3.1. Is it good or bad? Okay, this is a trend. How we are doing against others? Okay, what does it mean in the component level? So very easy, very quick to get an overall picture and showing, okay, at least it seems that this area is in order, and maybe we can go to the next topic, which is someone else's problems.
And especially if you haven't done it, so I encourage the people to try and you know, go and solve something and start kind of discussing
and maybe hide this first.
Maybe hide that first, but you know, it's you can start. Okay, now we have started to become more kind of data driven, and so this is starting point where we start, and now we have a better possibility. So I think you should take a positive approach on that.
Great. So how do you summarize? What are the steps? How to get forward?
Yeah. I think the simple approach is really first get the visibility. That's the starting point. You need to understand and in data level, what works and what doesn't work.
So start collecting data.
Start collecting data, which gives you the visibility, and we cover quite a bit of what to focus on data thing. And basically, because when you start collecting data and using data to get visibility, so you have become already data-driven, by kind of the itself.
At least if you go and see the data.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it needs a bit of the activity that you need to log into and see what's happening there.
And I think the data gives you also, you are in control of things, because otherwise, if you don't have data, so things are much based on assuming.
Yeah.
And that we are living in the year 2021, so you shouldn't be assuming anymore.
Yeah. Assuming and argumenting that okay, this, for my opinion, I think this should be done or that should be done, and so forth.
Okay, so when you have gotten the visibility, so you have become data-driven, and then start fixing things, as we discussed. Small improvements, continuous improvements, and that actually, when you use data, and start fixing, so you kind of become quite automatically proactive also.
Yeah.
So I think it's a kind of the simple transformation at the end of the day. If you want to take kind of simple approach on things, not make things too complicated.
You start to make these high impact, low effort cases first. It usually means that your environment starts to get better and better and better, and you just start to see less and less support tickets from random things. So you
but also support tickets also only tells when somebody has real problem and they go to the service desk. I think if you are really interested about improving the user experience, so you need the data, not expecting that people call the service desk, but you really have data to understand what they are suffering. Also, those people who don't never. There's been surveys that over 50% of the people, they never call service desk. They try to solve problems by themselves, or they ask help from a colleague. And when they find a workaround, when software gets hung, so I restart my computer. And next time when it happens, so I do it and do it. And I don't call the service desk, oh, should I do it this time or again? So it's really the data makes you proactive also. Then we talked about using KPIs and metrics to manage the operation, and we talked also about show things outside of it. Of course, be active inside your IT and inside your team, but also show things outside of the IT to business, and when things are going in better direction, so of course take a credit of it.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Okay, I think
I think we are coming to the end. We are coming to the end, and the next thing you should do if you are feeling interested is to go to send an email to sales@applix.com and book a demo.
Yeah, when we get the email, so we contact and we agree demo appointment by the teams, and we can then go more concretely in the details and show what all the data you can see, and then we talk also, tell then how basically it's very easy to get started. But send email to sales@applix.com and we will be in contact, and we continue from that.
Great. Maybe we have come to the end then.
Yes.
So Thank you for
Thank
all.
you, everybody. See you in next webinar.
Yeah.
Okay.